Welcome to Politics Talk. Thank you for tuning us in today. We have a lot of great things to talk about, so our subject today is 2020 has taught us flexibility. 2020 has taught us flexibility. Sounds like an interesting title. Today is Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. Our website is politicstalk.com. Our email address, or you can reach me at eric@politicstalk.com. And we're on social media at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Please click share, like, and comment on our, so you can share this with some of your friends, family members, co-workers, what have you, and we thank you in advance for doing so. So let's jump right into it. In the world of sports, the NBA draft is tonight at 7:30 p.m. The NBA draft is a little bit different than the NFL draft because typically with the NFL, there are a first round draft pick in the NFL is much different than a first round pick or top pick in the NBA because basketball is more of an international sport. But nonetheless, the NBA draft is tonight at 7:30. First virtual draft, obviously because of COVID-19. So the NBA is once again being very professional and responsible. So kudos to the NBA. Some of the top prospects, you have LaMelo Ball, of course, the son of LeVar Ball, brother of Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball is currently with the New Orleans Pelicans as a guard. I believe his brother, LaMelo, is a guard also. So LaMelo went overseas and played a bit more and developed his game. So there are some that are saying that Michael Jordan has given the owner of the Charlotte Hornets has expressed interest in LaMelo Ball, and the Hornets picked third. So that'll be interesting, although we'll have to see. Some of the other top candidates or draft or players that people are looking at: Anthony Edwards, the versatile wing out of Georgia, who shoots 50% from the field, only shooting maybe 29% from the 3-point range, but he is really a good looking prospect. Although some are saying that he's sort of halfway into basketball, but he also wants to have a music career and wants to do some other things as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens, where he goes. James Wiseman, the big man from Memphis, only played part of the year. For the Memphis Tigers, I think part of it was because of some NCAA investigations into some possible violations. So he just decided to sit out for the year. He's a really good big man though, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Obi Turpin out of Dayton, another versatile wing player, more of a hybrid 3-4 player out of Dayton. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the draft tonight. I believe it's on ESPN. So we have to tune in to see what happens there. There is no clear number one prospect. So it's and the Minnesota Timberwolves have the first pick. So what will Minnesota do? They have the point guard and D'Angelo Russell. They have the big man and Karl Anthony Towns. What will they do? It seems like they would want to go get another guard, like a shooting guard or a wing player to go along with the team they already have in place. So we will see what happens there. Again, 7:30 tonight on ESPN. And some other NBA news: James Harden. There's a lot of talk about the possible trade of James Harden to the Houston Rockets. He's not answering phone calls of owner of the Rockets coaches and ownership and management. He's disgruntled. Although he and Westbrook have signed off on the new coach Stephen Silas, but now I guess James Harden and Russell Westbrook have decided they don't want to play with each other, or they can't play with each other. I do believe the championship window in Houston is closed. I do not believe that the Houston Rockets, as currently constructed with Harden and Westbrook being their centerpieces, can win a championship. You have too many good teams in the West and also in the East. I mean, this year's NBA is going to look totally different. You have Golden State coming back. Of course, they draft second in the draft. What will they do? I believe they're going to add a major piece. I personally think Giannis Antetokounmpo will end up there at some point, and when that happens, it's lights out, game over. Golden State's dynasty will be back. We'll see. You have Brooklyn. I mean, my goodness, with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And then if Harden goes there, of course, the Lakers have made some moves. What will the Clippers do? The Clippers have been kind of quiet, so I'm kind of waiting to, although free agency hasn't started yet, there's talk that Rajon Rondo wants to go there. Then, of course, you have Portland. I think Portland's going to make a move or two. Then you have, of course, Denver, Utah. So there are a lot. Then we haven't even talked about Miami in the East, Milwaukee in the East, the Celtics in the East. But there's a lot of talk about James Harden, he has made it known that he wants to be traded to the Brooklyn Nets. So on our Twitter poll for today, the question is, if James Harden is ultimately traded to the Brooklyn Nets, will the Brooklyn Nets win a championship in the next few years? Again, go to Twitter, that's Politics Talk. Again, the question is, if James Harden is traded to or manages to get to Brooklyn, forces his way out of Brooklyn, sort of like Anthony Davis forced his way out of New Orleans, although Anthony Davis only had 1 year left on his deal when he forced his way out. James Harden has 2 years left at close to $80 million for 2 years, so we'll have to see. Because James Harden did turn down a contract extension at which will make him the first $50+ million a year player. So that tells me that he wants out of Houston to go because he wants to win a championship. He's made his money. He wants to win a championship. So it'd be interesting if it happens with him and Durant. If Kyrie is there, I would think that Houston would want Kyrie Irving in a trade. It may have to be a 3-team trade. But if all three of them play together, Kyrie, James Harden, and Durant, you're gonna need to play with 3 basketballs because I don't see it possible personally that when you have 3 ball dominant players that have to have the ball in their hands to be effective, how that will work. And I can't see Kyrie Irving wanting to be a third fiddle. That's just not his MO. So we will have to see how that goes. But again, please go to Twitter. Our Twitter question of the show is, if James Harden is again traded to or makes his way to the Brooklyn Nets this year, will the Brooklyn Nets win a championship within the next few years? We'll have to see. Let's talk some NFL here. Another question, although this was not on our Twitter page, but still, this is something to talk about. Will the New Orleans Saints be more explosive with Drew Brees out with the fractured ribs and collapsed lung, and Jameis Winston at quarterback? Will the New Orleans Saints be more explosive with Drew Brees out, injured, with Jameis Winston as quarterback? So of course, Drew Brees, there's been a lot of talk about Drew Brees having lost some arm strength over the past few years. Of course, he's out for a while. They're saying at least 3 weeks. I think that's quite ambitious for some cracked ribs and a collapsed lung. And with him being 41 years old, I mean, he already has a television deal lined up next year to do commentary. So this is his last year. So it'll be interesting to see. But with Jameis Winston is younger. He's a young quarterback. He has a strong arm, can throw the ball down the field. How will Sean Payton and the New Orleans staff manage having Jameis Winston at quarterback who can throw the ball down the field, which Drew Brees really couldn't do all that much anymore because of his age and what have you? Will New Orleans be more explosive? Now, I believe New Orleans will make the playoffs. I believe they will get in, but I also believe that once they get in, that they won't go very far once they get there. But we'll have to see. So, what will happen with New Orleans? But I also think this is an opportunity for Jameis Winston, the last year's Defensive Player of the Year, having thrown 30 interceptions, um, will be a better quarterback in Sean Payton's system. Sean Payton is one of the best play callers and offensive minds in football. So it'll be interesting to see what will happen with Jameis Winston. I think if Jameis Winston continues to turn the ball over like what he was doing last year, he won't be playing very long. But I actually think that this could turn into a long-term contract for Jameis Winston, either with New Orleans or someplace else. We'll have to see. Pittsburgh Steelers are undefeated, of course, 9-0. So the question is, will they go undefeated? The remaining schedule is Jaguars, Ravens, Washington Football Team, Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, Indianapolis Colts, and Cleveland Browns. So what are your thoughts? Will the Steelers go undefeated? I would say, because they have the Ravens at home, the Colts is going to be an interesting game. Buffalo should be a W. Jaguars should be a W. Bengals are on the road. Browns are on the road. I say the Steelers go 14-2. I think they lose 2 of those. I think they lose 2 of those. With COVID going around, we don't know if there will be key players that will miss games, with other teams. So I'm predicting 14-2. But I think in the AFC, I think it comes down to Pittsburgh and Kansas City in the AFC Championship, which I think will be a nuclear exchange should that happen. So we'll have to see what happens there. In Major League Baseball, Robinson Cano of the New York Mets has been suspended an entire year. That's 162 games for performance-enhancing drugs. This is at least his second offense. Last time he was suspended half of a year, 81 games. And with him being 38 years old, you have to wonder if this is pretty much it for him, if the Mets will sever ties and go in a different direction. So we'll have to see. Again, Robinson Cano of the New York Mets has been suspended for an entire year. Wow, for performance-enhancing drugs. In other news, just in general, nearly 2/3 of fans that have been polled have said that they will not return to in-person indoor sporting events until a widely proven and safe vaccine has been distributed across the country. What are your thoughts about that? I think that's smart. With the COVID numbers doing what they're doing, hospitalizations are going through the roof. We have deaths. We had over 1,800 deaths yesterday, Tuesday, November 17th. I think that's smart. And it'll be interesting to see with the NBA. Of course, they were in a bubble last season, but what will happen, because those games are going to be played in arenas. And there's some teams that are talking about, I think Golden State wants like 50% capacity. That makes no sense to me. They said that they're going to take, that everyone will have to get a COVID test coming in the building, and they have to socially distance. I think that's silly. I think that's absolutely silly. Okay, so but we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see what happens. So again, the name of our show today, as we go to our highlight, our sports highlight, the name of our show today is 2020 has taught us flexibility. Or maybe I should have named it, should have taught us by now, flexibility. 2020 should have taught us flexibility, or has taught us flexibility. So when we go to our sports highlight, I want to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals in the NFL, in the NFC West, the general manager is Steve Keim, who's a former NFL player. In 2018 or 2019, he drafted Josh Rosen, quarterback, hired Steve Wilks, former defensive coordinator with the Carolina Panthers, as head coach for the 2019 season. Now remember, we're talking about flexibility or flexibility and being able to sort of adjust and sort of shift when, to be flexible. That's what we're talking about here. In 2019, the Arizona Cardinals with Josh Rosen at the helm, they were 5-10, 5-10-1. They were last in the NFC West, and their record was, they looked worse than their record. They went 5-10-1. This year, so far, they are 6-3, first in the NFC West. Now, some changes that Steve Keim, the general manager, made was he went and hired Cliff Kingsbury out of Texas Tech. Went and traded Josh Rosen away, drafted Kyler Murray, traded for DeAndre Hopkins. So let's talk about this for a minute. So Steve Keim goes to the owner and says, "You know what? I made a mistake. Josh Rosen is not the quarterback that's going to lead us where we're trying to go. Steve Wilkes is not the coach. I made a mistake after 1 year." And basically, the owner said, "Okay." You know, he gave him some grace and afforded him the ability to make some different choices and decisions. That doesn't happen anymore. For example, look at what's happening in Chicago. They've been trying to make Mitchell Trubisky their quarterback for 3 years. Is not working. Okay, you have other places where they keep trying, and I realize that sometimes people have to develop, systems have to develop. You know, of course, we're talking about Baker Mayfield. The Browns have been trying for 3 years to make Baker Mayfield their quarterback. You know, come on, folks. You know, trust what you see, but then be willing to make some adjustments. So Steve Keim, made those changes, got rid of the coach, got rid of Josh Rosen. Now they're 6-3. Kyler Murray looks exciting. They have a great game coming up tomorrow night, Thursday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks. That will be a really, really good game. Both Seattle and Arizona have a 6-3 record. But we're talking about flexibility. You know, it's pride says, okay, or stubbornness. Pride and stubbornness say, okay, I'm going to continue doing the same thing over and over and over again. When you know when something is just not going to work. Your gut instinct will tell you that this isn't going to work. Okay, so and I know I've done that before. I used to be very stubborn, still am in certain ways. Don't tell anybody, that'll be our little secret. But stubbornness and pride will causes a lot of people to get stuck doing the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, instead of really taking an honest assessment or having a plan B to be able to consider other alternatives. Okay, so 2020, nothing has gone normal. From who would have ever thought that we have a shortage on toilet paper, on paper towels, that there would be meat shortages? Who would have thought that we would have these types of things going on? But we've had to adjust, or we should have adjusted by now. If you haven't adjusted by now, after 2020, if you are a human being on the planet Earth, if you have not adjusted by now, you never will. You never will. Nothing has gone the way, or very little has gone the way we hoped it would go this year in terms of good things. So let's think about this for a minute. Growth comes with being willing to sort of look at some things like, okay, is this really going to work? Is this something, I'm a business owner and I have to, with my employees, I have to look at, okay, if someone is underperforming, I have to look at, okay, is this someone who doesn't want to elevate their performance? Or is this someone that just needs more training? But I've learned to be flexible enough to be able to really study to figure out the difference. And if it's somebody that doesn't want to grow and evolve, then I remove them. And those who want to stay and they need some more training, then I train them and I train them up and the performance improves. But we have to be flexible. When something is not going the way that we think, we have to be willing to adjust and reconfigure. We have to be willing to, let's take a step back and look at this. Be honest with ourselves and have an honest assessment about if this is something that is serving me well, serving what I'm trying to accomplish well. We have to be willing to do that. There are great opportunities for growth with being flexible and able to adjust on the fly. As the old saying goes, we plan for the worst, we hope for the best. That means act like the worst is going to happen, But if something less than that happens, which most of the time it does, then that's fantastic. That's great. So let's be pliable. Let's be flexible, folks. Opportunities to grow. As we go to our intersection, again, website, and stay tuned. We have some more funny jokes coming up later on in the show. So please stay tuned, and don't forget about our Twitter question: Will James Harden in the Brooklyn Nets uniform bring a championship to Brooklyn within the next few years? Our website is politicstalk.com. Again, my email, I can be reached at eric@politicstalk.com. We're on social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Share this with someone. Don't keep it all to yourself. Share it with somebody. Click share, like, comment, send your comments, send some emails, to us so we can, with show ideas, with how we can improve and how we can make this more fun, and we can learn, we can laugh, and we can grow. So please reach out to us. Let's go to the intersection here. As COVID numbers are raging out of control, as we talked about earlier in the show, hospitalizations are well over 70,000 people. Hospitals are running short on PPE. We're 10 months into this. Why are we still short on PPE? Someone please help me to understand that. We've had, over 9 months, at least 9 months. Why are we still struggling with this? Unemployment benefits for millions of people are about to expire. A lot of small businesses are closing their doors, likely to never reopen again. Food lines are getting longer with people with food shortages because people don't have the money. Okay, the eviction moratorium is about to run out here soon. Okay, testing materials, for tests are starting to, the reagents that are needed for testing are starting to run short. Again, why is this happening? We talked about shortage of PPE. State and local governments are facing budget deficits, and unlike the federal government, state and local governments can't run deficits. They have to go by what they actually are, what they have, or what they will bring in with tax revenues. So let's talk about this for a minute, because I want to talk about Congress and on both sides, on Democrat, Republican, what have you. Congress they are being derelict in their duty and their responsibilities. Seems like the only thing they can agree on, and that they actually get done, is voting themselves a raise. And this is for all of them that are there, that have been there even this whole year. It is incomprehensible to me that we have people starving. We have people wondering where their next meal has come from. There are some estimates that some 4 million people have moved into poverty because of COVID-19. That's ridiculous, folks. That's ridiculous. Both sides of this, they're complicit. They're failing. They're failing to set their, again, we're talking about being flexible, pliable. We're talking about being adjustable, not rigid and immovable. Again, 2020 by now should have shown us that flexibility and being willing to, I might not be able to get everything I want in a stimulus package. Now, the Democrats did pass the HEROES Act back in May of this year, and there were some negotiations that were going on for a while, and going back and forth, and now, think about this, we're November 18th, and there's been no stimulus since April. That's 7 months. That makes no sense. That is irresponsible and dangerous. That is dangerous. And I have to blame the Democrats just as much as the Republicans. And you know what? It might be time to consider some new leadership on both sides. In terms of Speaker of the House, in terms of Senate minority and majority leader, House minority leader, I think we might have to start looking at new leadership. Another stimulus package should have been passed already. You could have gotten some of what you wanted in a previous stimulus package. It may not have been everything, but you could have gotten a lot of what you wanted and then come back and add. There should have been at least 2 more packages by now. And the economy would not be what it is. And don't think that because the stock market indices are reaching record numbers, only 55% of, according to Gallup, only 55% of people in this country have stock. And a lot of those are people, husbands and wives who live in the same home that have stock, who might have different portfolios. This is irresponsible. We have to know that headed into an election, that there would be, because for political, quote unquote, political reasons, that there would be less incentive after the election to pass a stimulus package than there would have been prior to the election. This makes no sense. And there are no new talks that are scheduled. I would say politicians today are out of touch with the everyday American. They don't have to worry about their health care. They don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. They don't have to wonder how their bills are going to be paid. They're out of touch. We'll do another show on our political system in this country. It's been fractured for years. But this is mind-blowing and mind-boggling to me. Something with stimulus and in life, and you have to sort of use your judgment with this. Sometimes something is better than nothing. So we have to sort of, again, we have to be flexible enough to be able to, look at it, have an honest assessment of a situation, and make necessary adjustments to bring about a different result. Remember, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We demand, as tax-paying citizens, we demand better. We demand better. And part of us demanding better, American citizens, and I am one of them, is we have to hold our elected officials accountable. We have to get involved with our local politics. We have to be able to know how the system is working, so that when things aren't working the way they should, we know how what the apparatuses are of government, and how to go and adjust those levers to remove people who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we have to do better than this. We have to. As we move on to the How Would You Feel Humanity part of the show, remember we have some really funny jokes. I think I got some good jokes today. I can't wait to share them with you guys. I laughed my head off. When I saw them, so I can't wait to share with you all. So in the How Would You Feel section, our humanities section, the How Would You Feel question is going to be a little different today. So the question is, how often does something you plan happen as planned? Let me read that again. How often does something you plan happen as it is planned? I don't know about you, but with me, very rarely. Very rarely does something I plan happen the way it's supposed to happen. Very rarely does that happen. Very rarely. So if rarely, how about having a plan B? Having a backup plan? To be able to, again, we're talking about being versatile. We're talking about being able to be flexible, adjustable. Remember, we're talking about how we can, so when life throws us curveballs, like we've been saying nothing but curveballs. No fastballs this year. Everything's been a curveball. Okay? It's been hard to zero in on life this year. But we can look at it like this. We can come out of this better and be more flexible. So that way we can go forward and be stronger and better. We can be more versatile and open to things beyond our control. We can be more open. Be more open to new ideas. We could be open to new possibilities, and hopefully some critical thinking. I know with me, it's helped my critical thinking a lot more this year, to be able to sort of think my way through things. And that takes practice and it takes effort and what have you, but I know it has certainly helped me. So again, let's be flexible. Let's be open. Let's be able to spot if something's not working. And just so you folks know, I'm not talking about husbands and wives if something's not working. Work your marriages out. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about in life and in other things. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with what your eyes are telling you and with what your gut is telling you, and then act accordingly. All right, as promised, have some funny jokes today. Some funny jokes. So let me throw them at you and you see what you think. So a guy said, I threw a boomerang a few years ago. He's been nervous ever since. And he lives in constant fear. I guess the boomerang never came back. He threw a boomerang a few years ago. Now he lives in constant fear, always looking over his shoulder. That's kind of funny, don't you think? There's another one. I told my physical therapist I broke my arms in 2 places. The physical therapist told me, well, stop going to those 2 places. That's funny. Laugh at that. That's funny. That's funny. That's funny. And here's one more. I think this is the best one out of all of them. Now, with Christmas coming up, husbands, don't do this. Men, don't do this with your woman, okay? When she's throwing you hints, pay attention to the hints she's throwing you, okay? Not like this guy here, okay? This guy said, it's my wife's birthday soon, and she's been leaving jewelry catalogs all over the house. He got the hint, so this genius got the hint and went and bought her a magazine rack. Now that's not funny. That's a shake my head. SMH. It's funny, LOL, but it's also an SMH. Okay, husbands, don't do that. Okay, don't do that. When your wife is giving you hints, go and pay attention to the hints that she's giving you. So, again, we've talked about being flexible. And 2020 should have taught us about being about learning how to adjust. Again, the name of the show 2020 has taught us flexibility. Should have, which will be necessary and where we're going. So again, we're on our email. You can reach me at eric@politicstalk.com. The website is politicstalk.com. We're on social media on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please, folks, share this with somebody. Please get the word out about us. We're just trying to, connect sports to life, and to politics and to life. So we can be human here. We're not perfect here. I'm far from perfect. I'm extremely flawed, but working to get better every day. Please click share. Let's send this out to people. Just so we can have some real conversations. It's difficult to have conversations nowadays because of the divisions that are running rampant in our country. But let's have some real conversations here. We're not here to cast judgment on anyone or to what have you. We just hang out here. We have fun. We talk about some real things and we laugh at the end. That's what we do. So we thank you for joining us. Please look forward to our blog tomorrow, Thursday, November 19th. It should be up right around 5 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please look forward to that. And our next show will be Monday, November 23rd. Monday, November 23rd. And with Thanksgiving being next Thursday, the show next Wednesday will be as planned. But there will be no blog next week because of the holiday. So we thank you again for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening, and let's laugh, let's get better, and let's love on each other. Y'all take care.